So I'm Michael. I'm really glad you guys are here and I could be here with you tonight. I was here, it was more than a half year ago when Progress Bar was by far not as well furnished as it is now. So it's really great to see the progress. So they also have it in their name, right? Progress Bar, like progress environment. Today I would like to cover a topic, how can developers increase their market value? So let me briefly ask a question, like how many of you are developers here or technical leaders? Technical leaders, most of you? Very good. And the rest of you, what do you guys do? Science, data science? Well, that's close actually, that's close. Okay, that's also a good fit for you. What about the rest? You can just shout. I like when it's dynamic because otherwise... Sales? Well, some of the principles will apply also here. All right, cool. Someone else? Just shout. Don't be shy.
Product management.
Product management, very cool. HR? HR, okay. That's close to Geekruiter, which is one of the companies I've co-founded recently. Cool, so I'll share briefly my background, and I have some slides prepared, but I don't really like going through them. I'm really keen to just answer your questions and we can build on top of it. If you guys don't have any questions, then we are left with just, you know, the mundane task of going through the slides. So you choose, okay? What would you choose? Would you choose to ask questions and I respond? If it's related to the topic? It reminds me of school, like, you know, this grammar school, and everyone is sitting in the back row and no one wants to say anything. There is some work to be done here also in this front. Cool. So just some background. Years ago, I co-founded this company in Thailand. So I lived 5 years in Thailand and co-founded HotelQuickly. That's me in the back. You can see, you know, in this green-orange T-shirt. Orange is actually my favorite color, if you don't know yet. And then I was actually responsible for the technical team as a CTO. So we've built the company from 0 to 95 people or so in its peak. We fundraised about $10–11 million. So it was great fun. It was lots of learnings along the way, and I was responsible for the engineering technical team. And I will be sharing some of my insights, you know, from my experience. So if it's not academic, then just don't throw stones on me, okay? If it's just pure experience, is it okay? You're like, oh, okay, it's okay. Are you guys with me here? Because if not, then we don't really need to continue. Yes? Okay, let's do it like on a concert when there is a rock star and they say yeah, because you need to wake up a bit. Say yeah, or say no, or whatever, just say something. Something is a great start, okay. And sometimes actually organize these workshops when we have some introductory game at the beginning, and it's much more fun, but okay. We've also organized some hackathons. This was the biggest one for 150 people, so it was great fun, also working with a really international team, so that's also something we can talk about if you guys want. So keep asking questions, okay? I can really build it up based on your questions. If you don't ask questions, then I will just follow what I have prepared. So now at Geekruiter, we have a stream for recruiters, because as a CTO, I was really annoyed in the past that recruiters actually cannot really recruit developers, right? Like you may know this feeling when a recruiter sends a message and, you know, mix up Java and JavaScript and so on. So I was constantly, like in the recent years, annoyed by this. So we have started an academy to teach recruiters. We call it Geekruiter. And we also have a stream for developers where we actually partner with some companies in Asia, where we help to relocate some developers. That's actually also what I've been doing in the past. And yeah, and so on. So if I think who is a superstar developer, because that's important to, you know, realize. Like, what would you guys say? Who is a superstar developer? How would you define a superstar developer? Competent, that's a great start. Famous? Yeah?
depends on which point of view thinking of it.
That's a great answer. All right, so we can build up on that. So it really depends who is asking. It's like maybe you saw my slides beforehand. No, that's. I really like when people look at things from different angles, and this is precisely, who is asking, and you can literally look at the question from an angle of a business owner or a customer, the programmer who solves their problem, or to junior programmer, a superstar is someone who really explains something difficult. If I look at who is a superstar developer from the angle of a CTO or a technical leader, then I will zoom to this particular topic, and then we can look at it. Okay, so we are not looking at it from the standpoint of a project manager, because to a project manager, the programmer who hits every deadline. But this may not be really the case. So whenever I work with developers, I talk to them, I interview them, I care about their personal growth, and I visualize their growth curve. I just call it some growth trajectory. And sometimes when I work with a developer over the course of 1 to 3 years, then I can visualize where he, for example, was a year ago or 2 years ago, and then how he evolves on this trajectory. And then it's really interesting to see how different people grow differently. And then I was even asking why is this? How could this happen? And I realized there are at least two extremes. So I like to look at things on some extreme axis. So say on the left there is one of my colleagues. He's Thai, called Byte. His name is Byte. And here is Joseph. He's actually from Czech Republic. So let's say these are the two personas. One is on one extreme, the other is on the other extreme. And one of them seeks comfort, the other seeks growth. And you could now maybe visualize the growth curve. So let's look at it. This is Byte. This is the guy who is at the same spot where he was 2 years ago. So he's there even today, and he will be maybe his growth curve will grow a little bit over the course of the next year. So this is what you could see on the growth curve, and the time is on the x-axis. So he has really limited growth over time. While Joseph, for example, and this is completely there is no particular how to say it in English, but you know what I mean. It's not really a scale, but as soon as you start working with people, then you can start comparing, and it's all relative. So you start seeing differences as a team leader. So that brought me to the question how come? Why one of them grows so much over time while the other is still living somewhere in the past? Are you guys with me? Is it clear? Can you also visualize? What does your growth curve look like? Is it steep, or is it shallow? You don't know?
It's again what you define as a growth, because sometimes you can start as a developer. So after some time, you just realize, okay, maybe it's not the way. I want to
change.
Something.
Yeah. So if as soon as I start working with developers or technical leaders, we had different team leaders at HotelQuickly. So I started thinking how can I increase their growth over time? And this is maybe where you are heading with your answer. Sometimes people change roles within a team, and sometimes they like to grow within their current role. So then you can actually break it down, right? What does it really mean, and what the person wants? Sorry, the wrong way. So how to change the growth trajectory? And I also realized when I was talking to this Byte guy. It's actually a funny name, Byte, right? It's so much connected to IT. So his growth strategy was all about hope, randomness. It was totally ad hoc. Whenever you ask him, hey Byte, what did you read recently? I don't know, I don't remember. It was maybe half a year ago. No clear path. It's completely. He was always waiting for us, the team leaders, to come up with some training plan. So he was never proactive. So I would actually add here lack of proactivity. It's actually my handwriting. I hope you guys can read it. And here you could see the other extreme, where Joseph's strategy was, based on experiments. So he liked to experiment. Sometimes he experimented with reading books in the morning. Sometimes he was all about reading books in the evening, right before he went to sleep. Sometimes he listened to podcasts on 2x. Sometimes he tried to digest everything. And every month he was experimenting with some new hack. And eventually I noticed he's really designing his life and his growth, which was really exciting to see, especially in terms of his professional growth. And I could see it, across the whole team, which was really exciting. And then I was thinking like how to shift the trajectory, right? So if we break it down, I started noticing several areas. So I would like to go through at least some of them. Depends on how much time we have and how many questions you guys have. So if you have questions, then I'm super happy to answer some of them. Just raise your hand. Okay. Shall we practice it for a while? Because now we are in Slovakia and people here are not so keen to ask questions. You can imagine in America, everyone would be like, yeah, I have a question. They'll be killing us here, but okay. So let's start with the zone of work. Oh no, sorry, golden handcuffs. So golden handcuffs, do you guys know the concept of golden handcuffs? No, some of you know? And I keep seeing it all the time, like those could be managers, those could be developers who work on well-paid projects. It could be people who get like a lot of money, salary-wise, but they don't grow professionally. And I had friends in Thailand, in Bangkok, who were managers, like top managers in corporations, and they had really, really great jobs. Anytime I asked them, like, hey, how is your job? Like, oh, it's okay. And then, like, what do you do? What did you learn in the last month or last year? Well, not that much, because everything is set up already. There is nothing much to learn. Like, I'm just there to organize, some meetings. And as soon as this repeats, you could see again the trajectory of the person. Like it's completely flat, right? So the golden handcuff is a term describing this trap, right? Like people get a lot of money at the job where they don't learn much. So I would actually suggest strongly at least one takeaway for you guys to optimize your next few years for growth and not for money, because these guys they were getting quite a lot of money, but after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they left their corporate job and they wasted their best years, which was really, really frustrating to see firsthand. But at HotelQuickly we didn't pay these huge salaries, so we compensated it with growth. So I would say this is one of the advantages of startups, right? But usually this is what you have in corporations, or I can actually see it even here in Slovakia. Like sometimes you have these well-paid contracts, in corporations, especially for developers, like Java developers and so on. But this could be precisely that trap where you get a lot of money, but 5 years down the road you are still at the same level and you are not growing. So this should be the major takeaway for you guys, and I'll be discussing it from different angles, okay? So zone of strength is the first that I actually had here, if you remember, right? Zone of work or zone of strength. So you grow and eventually you increase your market value most if you work where the area you want to work at meets what your boss wants to do and what your strengths are. And it takes a while to discover what your strengths are, right? Like maybe you guys like to work on on a more creative job, or maybe you like to focus on, say, improving bugs, and you are really analytical. But it takes a while to discover, and there are actually some tools. So I could recommend, for example, these. These are some of the online tests that I went through myself. For example, DISC is. Can I? No, it doesn't work this way. Maybe I need to go. Can I just make it bigger a little? Yeah, like this. So DISC, organizational physics, Queen stick, 16 personalities, it's all great. You can just answer a set of 20, 30, 50 questions, and they send you a PDF with really well thought profile of your personality, which is really great. And we actually used it with the management team to discover what our strengths are and how can we complement each other. And then we went even a step further. When we were hiring people, we started asking them, like, could you take one of these tests? And I guess this is one of the trends even going forward. The wealth dynamics that you can see at the bottom is also a great one. Most of these are free, especially the quiz stick, 16 personalities, it's free. It maybe takes 15 minutes to take. So I would strongly recommend. And then you discover what your strengths are, right? So then you should really match it to what you want to do and what you work on. So I was also thinking, like, what do these 8 players from HotelQuickly have in common? Like, these are 4 out of those, I don't know, it could be maybe 80 or 100 over the course of 5 years that I worked with. And these were really 8 players, and they all worked in their zone of strength. So they knew what they are passionate about, they knew what their strength is, and we also allow them to work only in those areas that fit their strengths. So which was really cool for them also. And they were learning and growing like crazy. So again, how do they increase their market value? Well, they keep growing. They haven't optimized for money, right? They rather optimized for their growth opportunity. They figured out what they are strong at, and they found a job that actually allow them to work 14 hours a day, which is really cool if that's your strength and that's what we want to do. Which could be also an interesting side topic, because sometimes people say, oh, like, you work 12 or 14 hours, it's just so unhealthy. But I would actually argue that it's healthy. It's healthier than working 8 hours in a job that just annoys you, because you learn much faster than the rest of people who are just bored at work. Maybe they are, in these golden handcuffs kind of job. All right, helpfulness. Another great concept that we've introduced with our developers and the team. We started thinking on this pyramid. How helpful are we as a team? And we could see again those developers and team leaders, managers who were most helpful on this pyramid were also increasing their market value most. So let me briefly describe what the pyramid is. So you could see here least helpful and most helpful at the top right. And here, so I'm sure you guys have experienced someone who just comes and says, like, hey, there's a problem, and that's it. Okay, so this kind of complaint, sometimes, especially in corporations, like there are just so many people who are this kind of negative, so someone who points at the problem, but there's nothing to solve that problem. And then, we would describe level 2 as someone who comes with the problem and figures out what the cause is. So it could be like, hey, the light is off, and it's maybe because the electricity is off completely, or it just identifies what the cause of the problem. And we had, for example, some of our QA testers on the level 2, because they identified what the problem is. Sometimes they found the cause, sometimes not, but they couldn't move up on the pyramid. So again, those developers who were able to step a bit higher were coming with the solution, and eventually they were going to a stage where they found out there is a problem. They identified why is it, how can they fix it, and they fixed it, and they just send us a message like, hey, there was a problem, we've already fixed it, don't worry. And these are the people you would just kiss at the end of the day, because they are most helpful people. So again, as a technical leader or a manager or anyone in a company, when you are thinking about whom to promote, like these people who are most helpful are those that are getting salary rises first. Does it make sense? It's actually described on some blog posts, so if you just search helpful pyramid, then I'm sure you will find it on Medium. And what was funny, as soon as we presented this concept at our all-hands meeting, then people started thinking like, okay, this makes sense. Next day, someone again identified like, hey, there's a problem. I was like, well, helpful, like hashtag helpful one. And the person was immediately like, oh gosh, like truly that's me. So people's behavior started changing just thanks to describing the pyramid and helping them identify where they are, at which level they are. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So where are you? Like, how helpful are you? What would you say? I'm sure one of the answers will be depends, but let's skip that one.
Always pushing with some people to improve the processes, and in most companies they don't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they always rather do the old school
Mm-hmm.
process, and they don't want to improve and really to change it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that happens sometimes. Yeah. It's good to change such a company then.
Oh yeah.
What about the rest of you? How helpful are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No one is keen to share. That means 1. 3 or 4. Okay, cool. So now at least you have some framework to think about, right? In the evening when you go to sleep, maybe you can just think quickly, yeah, I was helpful, number 3, 4, 5. And again, this is a great way to increase your market value over time. And now I'm describing it from the standpoint of someone who was promoting people, and this was one of the things you have it just somewhere in the back of your mind, like this person is helpful, this person just complains and identifies problems. All right, let's move on. How much time do we actually have? Because I could talk forever, especially if you guys don't react at all. Then I'll just keep going.
10 minutes.
Okay, that's great. If you guys have questions, then ask me, and we can rather answer some of your questions than just go through the slides. No questions? Okay.
I have one question.
Walk, thanks God.
Can you go two slides back?
Here? Here?
One more, yeah.
Here?
So, yeah, the P pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So number 4 is recommendation, and number 3 is solution.
Mm-hmm.
Why recommendation is about solution?
Well, recommendation.
You know, when somebody finds a solution or somebody wants to recommend something, why do you value more recommendation?
Well, because they identify, it's always adding on top. So here you identify there is a problem, you say what is the cause, you say what could be the solution, and then, it could be 2 or 3 different solutions. So then above you recommend like, hey, I think out of these 3 solutions, we should go with this one. Because even if I use an example of fixing a bug, right? Like you could have 2, 3 ways how to fix a bug. One could take forever, the other could be quick fix, dirty solution. So you propose like, hey, we are under pressure, so let's go with this one. It has these pros and cons. Does it make sense?
How do you motivate people to go up this ladder?
So it's a great question. One of the things that helped was actually the all hands call where we shared this pyramid, and then we just kept reminding them as soon as someone annoyed us, because it's really annoying when someone's like, hey, there's a problem, and sometimes it could be as little thing as like, hey, we haven't organized any lunch together, right? I was like, I have so many other problems, like why don't you organize it, right? But then we said like, well, we haven't organized, now you are a helpful one, like how about you organize it? And this kind of repetition helped people to go upstairs in this pyramid. So it doesn't only mean, to solve problems on a technical level, but it could be organizing events, it could be literally anything. Especially when people complain, and here in Slovakia, Czech Republic, people like to complain, I guess, a lot. Okay, so tech skills. This says it all. You guys need to become subject matter experts because, I'll just skip this one. It's too obvious. What I would ask yourself is how are you learning these things? Are you constantly learning? It's, especially in my eyes, it's all about continuous learning. So if, again, I compare Byte and Joseph, he was learning constantly, and Byte, learned maybe 2 weeks in a quarter, maybe before some performance evaluation. He read a few blog posts, and that was it. With Joseph, we could see that he was reading all the time, some blog posts, listening to podcasts, watching videos. Like, he was adopting new skills constantly. So becoming subject matter expert requires continuous learning. That's obvious. So I'll not ask you this question, are you constantly learning? But think about it tonight again. Circles. Important again, if you think about how to increase your market value, I would say you cannot not think about the people you meet, because there is this great saying and research that you are the average of your closest 5, right? Do you guys know this? Yeah? No? No. Yes? No? Then say yes if you know it. No. Okay, so briefly, I'll describe it. So it literally means that your closest 5, which means, it could be your colleagues, or it could be your boss, or your spouse, or whoever. So the people you meet most frequently, if you take the average of what they earn, like, you are the average also. So there was some research, and this was the outcome of it. So essentially what they say is, to increase your market value, start meeting people who are already earning more, they are further in their career, they are more famous, as someone said it a while ago. So start, getting out of your comfort zone, because if you are sitting at the office the whole day and with the same people for the whole year, or maybe 2 or 3 years, and the people are not growing, and you cannot really expect you to be a superstar at the end of the day. So I like to think at the circles, like, some people you just need to leave behind because they are not growing at all. So I have, these dots are people. So I have a group of people whom I just left behind, and I don't even meet them anymore. There are some people who I would love to meet. Some people who maybe are above the say, if you just look at it from the salary standpoint again, right? You could see who possibly is further in the career. So this could be the people. And then you want to get as many of those to your closest 5. So that's the concept. Does it make sense? So some people you need to leave behind, and some people you need to get closer to. So I would again encourage you guys to think who is in your circle of the closest 5. And there are some exercises. This could be actually a half-day workshop where you just write who is in your circle, then you identify whom would you like to meet, and then you start approaching the people. And that's what I did actually, even after I came from Thailand and Czech Republic. After I lived 14 years abroad. So I started meeting people like systematically every day. I invited someone for a coffee. Communication skills. Here, I would highlight one really great way to improve your communication skills. It's actually Toastmasters. Do you guys know Toastmasters? Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. I was a part of Toastmasters for about 3 years. You can join a meeting, you can say anything, and they will clap at the end. Like, how awesome it is, right? And that helps to improve your communication skills. Like, do we still have some time? Oh, that's plenty. Okay. So Toastmasters, if you guys don't know, then this could be really a game changer, especially for those of you who maybe are introverts like me. You don't feel comfortable getting on stage, but it's all about repetition. And Toastmaster helps you do these reps, so they push you out of the comfort zone every week, and eventually you learn to communicate and lead people. Personal branding, like, I couldn't underestimate this. If you look at people online, you look them up, you could immediately see if their personal brand is strong or not. Some people have lots of blog posts, maybe they record podcasts, maybe they appear somewhere on events or meetups, and those people have strong personal brands. So again, if you think whose market value increases, like, it's exactly those people who have strong personal brand. So I couldn't recommend more you guys to think about your personal brand. It's not marketing is not just for companies, right? It's also for individuals. And this could again be a topic for a half-day workshop, like how to do it properly. I also went through some rebranding, personal rebranding, which was great fun. Yeah. Mentors, again, helps tremendously to grow. But since we have only 1 more minute, I would just ask, how many of you have a mentor here? 2, 3, 4 of you? 5 of you. It's actually interesting that all of you who raise your hand are in the front or the second row, which maybe it could be interesting to research further. Why is that?
Maybe you just can't see the ones in the back because we're all raising our hands.
Maybe they're just so shy, like no. Okay, maybe we should wrap it up with the last question, since we have one last minute, right, or so. So I don't want to take too much of the time here, but I wanted to highlight the importance of focusing on your professional and personal growth instead of just chasing money here and there, because that eventually increases your market value in the long term. Does it make sense so far? Shall we wrap it up here and maybe we can discuss this topic in a follow-up workshop or something else? Over beer, maybe, when you wake up again? Sorry, did you have a question? No? Does anyone have a question?
Yeah, I have.
Good.
Can you think of some example where growth is
Negative?
maybe more like when the growth is
Harmful? For an individual or for a team? If I look at it again from the standpoint of a technical leader, then it was actually at some point harmful on the company level, because we realized that people who are passionate about professional growth, they like our company, they relocated from all over the world eventually, and we built up a team full of people who are passionate about professional growth. And that was great at first, but after 3-4 years, we realized like no one really wants to work on the legacy projects and legacy code. So as soon as there was some project, there was a bug here and there, and now guys, who will fix it? Like, oh gosh, like I cannot learn anything new there. Like it's just so boring. Like all of these superstars rejected work on these mundane tasks. So that was actually one of the reasons why we kept Byte, even though he was not really a team fit, but we really needed him for his persistence and actually for his lack of growth, if I can say so. Does it make sense?
yes, it does. I have another question.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it too much growth, or doesn't too much growth increase the risk of burning out?
Of burning out? So that's a good question. If too much growth could lead to a burnout. Well, it could, right? Like I cannot say it couldn't, but the question is, are you more likely to burn out with more growth or with less growth? And I would actually argue that you are more likely to burn out if you don't grow, because then you are stuck at the same level, and then you may expect some results, you may expect some promotion, but the promotion doesn't come. And I would not expect a burnout if you grow. You could grow eventually, and I also went through a burnout, a little burnout, like not a huge burnout, but still. And I was growing, but the reasons for the burnout were others, not too much growth. But it's a great question. It's very philosophical, but a very good one. Shall we wrap it up? If you guys have any questions, you can send me a message, or I'm actually on Facebook, so you can just look me up and we can chat afterward. Okay? Thank you.